Hello everyone. Today we will learn about interproximal spaces. So what are interproximal spaces? If you see here, as name indicate, interproximal spaces. The space which is present in between the proximal areas. So it is in between the proximal area spaces. Okay, so these are known as interproximal spaces. So in dentistry, if you see, the interproximal spaces is a triangular shape area between adjacent teeth in the same arch. So it is a triangular shape area present in adjacent teeth, but important is it is supposed to be in the same arch. It is present cervical to the contact area. So interproximal spaces are considered to the only those spaces or triangular spaces which is present below the contact area and towards the cervical area. So it starts from contact point to the cervical area, and it is best observed from the facial aspect. You cannot see from the proximal surfaces, but if you want to see the proximal surfaces, proximal spaces, it will be best visualized from the buccal aspect or a facial aspect. It is covered by interdental papilla. It's supposed to be covered by interdental papilla. If it is not, that means the periodontal health is not good. So that is why interproximal spaces are covered with the interdental papilla, which is a part of the gingival tissue. The size and shape depends upon forms and location of all its boundary. So how the form is, location is anterior or a posterior, or the boundaries of the adjacent tooth. So what is the clinical significance here? The interproximal spaces are important for a proper stimulation of the periodontium. As I mentioned earlier, if the triangles and the shape is proper, then only the health of the periodontal ligament, that is interdental papilla, periodontal ligaments, they are also maintained. Here you can see there is a recession because cervical line is here and the gingiva is recessed down. Okay, so that maintains the triangular spaces, the or interproximal spaces maintains the stimulation of the periodontium. It helps in the self cleansing of the tooth, so it maintains the cleansing area of these areas. Okay, so there is a self cleansing, so that is why it's considered to be a self cleansing area. Now embrasure is also interproximal spaces, but why the name is different? Because if you compare embrasure with an interproximal spaces, the interproximal spaces are from contact point to the cervical line. Okay, and embrasure normally, if you see, from all sides of the tooth, either mesial side, either lingual side or either buccal side, or either from the incisal aspect. So that is why the open space between the proximal surface, this is also proximal, right, like an interdental spaces. So open space between the proximal surface of two adjacent teeth of a same arch. It is similar, but they diverge facially or lingually or and incisally or cervically. So from the contact area. So it is also from contact area, but they diverge facially as well as incisally. Now if you see facially, that means buccal surface, they are named. That is why the name of these embrasures are according to their location and the aspect from they are viewed. Now if I'm looking it from the example is, if I'm looking it from the facial or a buccal side, there will be, now this is buccal side, right? If I'm observing from the buccal side, what I will say, it's an occlusal embrasure. You can see the triangular space here. Okay, so this is a occlusal embrasure and cervical embrasure. So two embrasures I can visualize from the buccal aspect, either occlusal embrasure and the cervical embrasure. And if I'm viewing the tooth from the incisal side, so I will have facial embrasure or maybe the buccal embrasure and the lingual embrasure. So this is what is an occlusal aspect. Okay, so I can see the buccal embrasure, this triangular space I can make out here. So these triangular spaces are the buccal embrasure and these triangular spaces are called as an lingual embrasure. So you can make out now the difference between interproximal spaces as well as the embrasure. So embrasure is a part of interproximal spaces, but interproximal spaces are only considered below the cervical, towards the cervical line, from contact area to cervical line. But embrasures are maybe occlusal also, cervical also, or maybe buccal also and lingual also. So it is embrasure is from triangular spaces from all aspect of the tooth, the triangular space present from all aspect of the tooth. So what is the physiological purpose of this embrasure? Embressure also, because it is an interproximal spaces, so it acts as a spillway for food during mastication. So food can easily pass through the from the below or maybe from the embressure areas. It acts as an internal part of self-cleansing. So again, same thing as an interproximal spaces. It helps also in the self-cleansing area. It's considered to be a self-cleansing area. Clinical significance. Now this is very important because due to its similar contour. Now contour in where? The adjacent tooth. Okay, due to its similar contour on either side. Normally they are with similar contour. So it is extremely important while performing the dental operation. So which case requires it? If you see here, there is a caries on the proximal area. So you have to check the contour of the adjacent tooth, and according to that you have to maintain the contour and maintain the embressure over here. If similar contour is not maintained, if the similar contour is not maintained, then it affects the health of the periodontium. You can see the recession here. Now see, papilla is properly developed here, but here the papilla has been gone because of the proximal caries here. Okay, and the proximal restoration should be maintained with the contour of an adjacent teeth. I will not say only the proximal restoration, I will say if the replacement of total crown is also there. So you have to maintain the contour of the tooth here. Now if 4 crown has to replace, so you have to maintain the contour, uniform contour. Now see this contour and see this contour, this is different. Okay, so the periodontium will affect here. But if you give restoration or capping also, if you maintain this triangular area with the contour, equal similar contour with the adjacent tooth, so the health of the gingiva will be maintained. See, the similar cap is here, only thing is they have not gap over here. So if you place it properly, so there will be a proper nice gingiva will be developed over here. Even the papilla will also develop. So that is what are the, that is why it is very important to maintain the embressure properly. Embressure comes along with the triangular or contour of the adjacent teeth. So it is very important as you see clinical point of view also. Okay, so this is what is about embressures and the interproximal spaces.